for a girl in Punjab, and then probably the reflections of those memories are getting reflected in this story. Let us try to understand this with the help of the text of the story. Before we start with the actual text of the story, let us talk about one more thing, which is very interesting thing. The first version of this story appeared in the Sunday Statesman magazine, published from Calcutta on 29th May 1955. Now, when I'm saying the first version, yes, of course, there was the second version. The first version is different from the second version, which was published in Sahitya Akademi version, or we can call it a Sahitya Akademi version because it was published in an anthology which was published by Sahitya Akademi. In several respects, it is different from the first version, the most significant of which is the absence of the end twist. Yes, in the first version, which was published in Sunday Statesman, it was not having the last twist. That means the boy and the girl finally, the boy at the end of the story, he could realize that the girl was blind. Actually, it was added later on as it was suggested by a friend of Ruskin. And finally, this second version, which was published in Sahitya Akademi anthology. And probably I can say that the second version is more popular. So let's have a look on the actual text of the story and let us try to understand some important things in the story. It begins with this kind of statement: I had the compartment to myself up to Rohana, and then a girl got in. See, the story begins with this kind of statement. I mean, the narrator himself comes on the scene. And the second character, that is a girl who enters in the story with this first line itself. The story talks more about a young guy who is having, a kind of fantasy, who is having a kind of romance in his heart, and particularly while he is traveling during his journey in the train. One girl enters into the compartment, and he gets fascinated by the presence of the girl. And the boy himself is a blind person, but he doesn't want to make other people realize about his blindness. So he doesn't want to disclose the fact of his blindness. So he's trying to hide the fact, and he's trying to establish a kind of relationship with that girl through his conversation with the girl. Now the story moves on like this. The couple who saw her off were probably her parents. They seemed very anxious about her comfort, and the woman gave the girl detailed instructions as to where to keep her things, when not to lean out of the window, and how to avoid speaking to strangers. They said their goodbyes. The train pulled out of the station. So, the scene has been created in such a way that the other two people, the man and woman, they might be the parents of the girl, but it is not stated anywhere clearly. As I was totally blind at the time, see, the story moves on with this kind of sentence, that as I was totally blind at the time, my eyes sensitive only to light and darkness. Now see, this line, it reflects certain kind of past reflections of the Bond's life, the life of Ruskin Bond. As I said, that during his young age, he was in love with a girl, and she was having Punjabi background. She was an athlete, and she was having, a very good physique, and he got attracted to the girl. And those memoirs are getting reflected here, because here the story uses the words like my eyes sensitive only to light and darkness. Probably the darkness, it reflects the past, and the light, probably it talks about the future, which is uncertain. The train pulled out of the station, and I was unable to tell what the girl looked like, but I knew she wore slippers from the way they slapped against her heels, It would take me some time to discover something about her looks, and perhaps I never would. As the man was blind, he says that perhaps I would never ever be able to know some more things about her looks because he was blind. But I like the sound of her voice and even the sound of her sleepers. Now, see, a blind man can get attracted to the sound of sleepers as well because it's all about a girl, a young girl who has just entered into the compartment of the train. Are you going all the way to Dehra? I asked. So the narrator himself narrates the story, and the boy asks a kind of question to the girl that are you going all the way to Dehra? And this is how he begins his conversation with the girl. I must have been sitting in dark corner because my voice startled her. She gave a little exclamation and said, I didn't know anyone else was here. So even the girl was not aware that someone else is already present in the compartment. Now why she talks like this, why she replies like this, that is to be revealed little later. I must have been sitting in a dark corner. This is how he assumes that I must have been sitting in a dark corner because my voice startled her. She gave a little exclamation and said, I didn't know anyone else was here. Well, it often happens. As we talked about the punchline of the story, here it comes. Well, it often happens that people with good eyesight fail to see what is right in front of them. They have too much to take in, I suppose. As he was a blind person, he says that they have to take too much in, I suppose. See, look at the selection of the words that the Bond has selected for the story. He has used I suppose because that is the only option available to the blind person, the blind guy in the story. Whereas people who cannot see have to take in only the essentials, whatever registers most tellingly on their remaining senses. So, very significantly, he has conveyed a kind of message that people who are having good eyesight, they are not able to see the things in the world the way it should be seen. Because probably they are getting more attracted towards lot many other things which are in their surroundings. And this is how they miss to take in the most essential things in the surroundings. I didn't see you either, I said, but I heard you come in. He said that I could not see you, but I heard that somebody is entering. I wondered if I would be able to prevent her from discovering that I was blind. I thought, provided I keep to my seat, it shouldn't be too difficult. So he didn't want to disclose that he was a blind person, and that's why he remained seated at his seat only, so that the girl would not be able to realize that the person is blind. The girl said, I'm getting down at Saharanpur. My aunt is meeting me there. Oh, then I had better not be too familiar. I said, aunts are usually formidable creatures. So, this is a kind of impression that the boy is having about the aunts. And the girl is telling that her aunt is to receive her at the next station, that is Saharanpur. Where are you going? She asked. Now, the girl is also taking keen interest in this conversation with the guy. Where are you going? To Dehra and then to Mussoorie. See, look at the reflection on Mussoorie. Because Ruskin Bond, he was very much attached with Mussoorie. And the place like Mussoorie is very often, getting reflected in his works in this way or that way. Oh, how lucky you are. I wish I were going to Mussoorie. I love the hills, especially in October. Yes, this is the best time, I said, calling on my memories. The hills are covered with wild dahlias. The sun is delicious. And at night, you can sit in front of a log fire and drink a little brandy. See, this is a typical description of, we can say, a kind of hill station like Mussoorie or Dehradun. And he talks about the enjoyment part of life at hill station. Most of the tourists have gone and the roads are quiet and almost deserted. Yes, October is the best time. She was silent, and I wondered if my words had touched her, or whether she thought me a romantic fool. Now, the boy is getting more confused because after having this much of conversation with the girl, now he's afraid of one thing, that if the girl would think in that direction that this guy is a romantic fool, then that's not a good thing for him. It can spoil his impression. So he keeps mum for a while. Then I made a mistake. What is it like? I asked. She seemed to find nothing strange in the question. Had she noticed already that I could not see? But her next question removed my doubts. The next question from the girl's side was, "Why don't you look out of the window?" she asked. The boy is asking that what it looks like out of the window, what kind of scene is that? And the girl replies that why don't you yourself look outside the window? And now it confirms that the girl has not realized about the blindness of the boy. "Why don't you look out of the window?" she asked. I moved easily along the berth and felt for the window ledge. The window was open and I faced it, making a pretense of studying the landscape. I heard the panting of the engine, the rumble of the wheels, and in my mind's eye, I could see the telegraph posts flashing by. Now see, the way the Bond has described the motion of the train, it has got some reflections from his past life. He has mentioned certain things in his own life story journal, and he has mentioned certain thing about his train journey. I mean, train leaving from the station, and this is something similar to the things which are found in his own journal. "Have you noticed," I ventured, "the trees seem to be moving while we seem to be standing still." Now, what to talk about? And that's why he talks about, such a silly thing, that trees are moving, it seems so. And the girl replies with the same silly answer. "That always happens," she said. "Do you see any animals? Hardly any animals left in the forests near Dehra." Now see, slightly here Ruskin Bond touches certain environmental issues. Save trees, save animals, or save forest, this kind of thing. He has touched very unconsciously, he has conveyed a message for environmental issues as well. I turned from the window and faced the girl, and for a while we sat in silence, as he was pretending that he was looking outside the window from the train. Now they are sitting for a while in pin drop silence in the train. Nobody is talking to anyone. "Have you noticed," I ventured, "that trees seem to be moving while we seem to be standing still?" "That always happens," this is how she replies. I turned from the window and faced the girl, and for a while we sat in silence. "You have an interesting face." With more courage now, the boy is trying to make a brave statement. But instead of pretty face, now he says, "You are having interesting face," because he is not sure whether the girl is looking pretty or not. Again, in reply to this, the girl, she laughs and she says, "It's nice to be told I have an interesting face. I'm tired of people telling me I have a pretty face." And this is how the boy is getting kind of confirmation that the girl has got pretty face as well. But he is saying that girl has got interesting face. And in a way, he is saying that I'm interested in you. See, this kind of conversation, it talks about, or it describes the youthful fantasy at very young age. Obviously, it is quite understandable that at very young age, while you are traveling in the train and where your fellow companion is a young girl, this kind of emotions do arise particularly in the heart of a young boy. So this is how it happens. So he confirms that the girl is having a pretty face. Uh, Yes, you have an interesting face, I remarked. I was becoming quite daring, but it was a safe remark. Few girls can resist flattery. She laughed pleasantly, a clear, ringing laugh. See, look at the words which are selected for the sounds that the boy is listening to. I mean, the description of all these things from the girl side, the Bond has used the word like a clear, ringing laugh because sounds matter a lot to the blind person. Oh, so you do have a pretty face, thought I, and aloud said, well, an interesting face can also be pretty. Now he is becoming more and more daring in his conversation with the girl. You are very gallant young man, she said, but why are you so serious? Now the girl could have an estimate that the boy seems to be very serious guy. I thought then that I would try to laugh for her, but the thought of laughter only made me feel trouble and lonely. This is a wonderful statement in the story. That the thought of laughing at somebody, it makes him troubled and feeling more lonely. This happens because of the past memories of Ruskin Bond's life. Will soon be at your station, I said. Saranpur is about to arrive. Uh, Thank goodness it's a short journey. I can't bear to sit in a train for more than 2 or 3 hours. Yet I was prepared to sit there for almost any length of time just to listen to her talking. This is how he feels about the girl's presence during the journey. That he is ready to sit for any length of the journey if if he is getting a chance to have a conversation with this girl. Her voice had the sparkle of a mountain stream. As soon as she left the train, she would forget our brief encounter, but it would stay with me for the rest of the journey and for some time after. This happens with a young guy because that's the impact of youthful days of the life. The engine's whistle shrieked, the carriage wheels changed their sound and rhythm. Now, see, this described that the train is arriving at some station, so probably it would be Saharanpur, and probably the girl would get down at Saharanpur